Hey everyone, I am Carla Kopp. I'm from Weird Draft Games. I am a game designer, publisher, and developer. Yeah, I'm three things. My brain just doesn't work sometimes. And today I am here with Sara Perry. She is the designer of Gift of Tulips, which I have right here. I don't know. I'm really excited about this. But she also does a lot of other things, and she is here to talk to us today about freelancing in the game industry. Um, so, Sara, first, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah. I do many different things in games. I do freelancing, which I'm going to talk about here, in like all the different sectors. I design games. I really like gardening, and I just got a puppy. That's the extent of my life right now.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty good life where you're just gardening with your dog and, like, in your spare time, designing board games and doing other stuff. Um, so, let's talk about that freelancing. What are all the different ways you're freelancing in the games industry?
So right now, I have just a couple of clients, and I do different stuff for each client. So, like right now, I'm managing customer support for Pandasaurus games. So I answer all of their emails. I help out with Kickstarter sometimes when they come up with Kickstarter comments. I am the logistics coordinator for Jelly Bean Games. So I do a lot of stuff at Jelly Bean Games. I handle all of their coordination and logistics, which is basically like from the time a game gets sent to the printer to when it gets delivered to your door. I am one of the people that is managing that whole process. So all of the shipping stuff, all of the printing, along with a couple other people. And I used to do customer support for them, do some Kickstarter stuff for them, like managing updates and comments and stuff like that. And I just recently started running their Twitter page for social media. So I do kind of like all the things.
Yeah, that is definitely a variety of things. So how did you even get started with this?
Well, it started with a lot of unpaid work. So, as any, probably like any small service business does. So, I did a lot of unpaid work in the beginning just to get my name out there so people would know who I was in the first place. So, I did a lot of networking at cons with different designers and publishers because I initially thought that when I was going to do freelancing, I wanted to do design and development work, which is, I mean, I still want to do that, not what I'm doing right now, though. So I had a publisher friend, Peter, who runs Jelly Bean Games, who had an opening for part-time customer support, and they just needed somebody, to help answer comments and emails and stuff. And since I had been building up relationships with people for like 2.5 years or something, just working on building relationships and getting to know people, when he had an opening, he was like, "Oh, I should ask Sarah." So he came to see if I'd be interested, and I took that job. And it
Who
was
had an
just,
opening for
a few
part-time
hours a
customer
week, not
support?
that much. But I've just kind of been working up from there, taking on more responsibilities at Jelly Bean as I, grow and get more experience. And then that kind of has branched out into getting other jobs. So since I've been working for them, people have started to know my name and my work a little bit more. So I'm starting to get into some other places too.
So, you brought up like doing unpaid work for people. Can you give like some examples of what you did?
Yeah, so I did a lot of playtesting, like so much playtesting because I wanted to do design and development work initially. So basically, if I was at a convention and somebody needed to playtest something, I would playtest. Like I bought all of the things that I would buy at convention booths on like the first day, so I had the whole rest of the con weekend to play with people and um, like my friends would help me meet other friends and stuff. So I did a lot of playtesting just to kind of you know, not only to grow my own skills, but also to show people like I know how to design games too. Um, So a lot of that, and then a lot of work just getting to, just getting to know people. So like if I was at a convention and my friend was running a booth, if you're running a booth at a con, you can't leave the booth. So I would offer to go pick up lunch for people or go get them coffee or something like that. Um, yeah, so it's just a lot of like mainly play testing and then, odds and end things as they come up.
And that makes a lot of sense. I've definitely like like if somebody offered like, "Hey, I'll go get you coffee and stuff at the booth," would be like, "Yes, that is fantastic." Because, well, like just being able to get like a fresh beverage while you're at a con is legit.
Yeah.
Um, it's harder than people would think if they've never been to a con.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, how
It's
did you?
exhausting.
Yeah, it very exhausting. So like you had decided that you wanted to do like design and development freelancing. Um, like how did you make that transition?
Well, it it was a little bit weird at first because I thought that I knew that I didn't really want to do customer support or shipping and logistics or anything like that because I really had my heart set on design and development. So I thought if I just do customer support now, like it's just answering emails, that shouldn't be that bad. Um, I'll get my name out there, and in the meantime, I can keep showing people that I know how to design games and I can help with development, and then eventually I'll make that transition. Turns out that I do actually really like answering emails and writing Kickstarter updates and planning shipments and stuff. So it was weird that I didn't really expect to enjoy any of this, but now I really do. Um, so I don't know. I guess I took it because I thought that it would show eventually that like if I had that experience that I'm familiar with the industry, now I just really like it. Like there's a certain kind of satisfaction that you get from making a game, like designing a game and having people enjoy it, but there's also really nice satisfaction from being part of the team that physically gets that made and gets it into people's hands. So kind of started enjoying that process more.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely see that because like, well, designing games is super fun, and that fun part is nice. But like doing like all the little like things that aren't like so fun, like but like that come together and be like, oh yeah, like this thing happened because of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you made like all the shipping and stuff happen. Like that's a pretty good accomplishment. Like it
Yeah.
won't happen unless somebody really tries. So
Like designing games is like a series of puzzles that you have to figure out, and then shipping and all of that process is just a different kind of puzzle. So if I started looking at it that way, it's a lot more enjoyable.
yeah, like everything can be a puzzle maybe if you look at it that way. But I mean, it's I think that's a good perspective to have. Um, has there been anything else that's helped you get freelance gigs, like other than just word of mouth?
Um, I've tried to start branching out more with brand awareness to try to get my name out to people that don't know me and aren't already in my network. But that is a new endeavor. I've only recently started doing that more, so I'll see how that goes. But so far, it's mainly been just a lot of word of mouth for me, getting to know people and making like actual genuine connections with people. So that when somebody has a problem and they think, I don't know, I need somebody to figure out the shipping thing, they know me and I'm their friend. So they're like, oh, yeah, my friend knows how to do that. I should just ask her.
Yeah, I mean that is probably the best thing because like, well, I mean I hire freelancers to do a variety of things, but like when I don't know the person, I usually like go to one of my friends and like that has worked with them, and
Mm-hmm.
ask them about it because like um I mean there's not like a ton of money in the games industry, so you don't want to like
Mm-hmm.
waste it on somebody that's like not gonna do
Yeah.
what they say that they're gonna do. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, Me personally, like, so I've been doing some freelance as well, and I started a blog, and the blog has been surprisingly, like, a reason why, like, people are like, oh yeah, I saw your blog, so can you do this random thing for me? And I'm like, sure, I will definitely do a random thing as long as you know, do my invoice, and that actually worked out, like, better than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just another idea if people really want to get into freelancing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it could also be something that nobody ever looks at. So it took.
I think I think the difference with putting out content that people actually like will hire you for and content that people just ignore is you have to make that worth their while, right? They have to be getting something from it. So if you're just putting random stuff into the ether, like nobody's going to hire you off of that. But if they're actually getting quality content from you, like from your blog, and they see that you know what you're talking about and you seem like a professional and they're getting something from that blog, they're more likely to want to hire you because of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I've definitely seen people that do blogs where it's like I question, like, did that blog like take you like 5 minutes to write, or like how much effort did you really put into this? So yeah, if you're gonna do something, actually do it. Otherwise, it's either not gonna do anything, or it's gonna like make it look like, I don't, not that you're dumb, but that, like, I don't know, you think things are a lot harder than they are, something like that.
Mm-hmm. You just have to put your best foot forward with it, like actually, put effort into it.
So how are you balancing your game design with freelance?
It is difficult, but it's easier for me now than it used to be. So I have only recently started freelancing full time. Up until, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I was still working a full time job. So it was really difficult then. At about a year ago was when I tried to start freelancing more. And at that point, it was so difficult to balance game design with freelancing because I was working a full time job, I was working a part time job, I was freelancing part time, and I was still trying to design games. So that was absolutely exhausting and something had to give. So game design kind of fell to the wayside for a little bit. But now that freelancing is my job and it's my only job, I can kind of treat it as a 9 to 5. So I just kind of do my freelancing work during the day, um, like when I would be working a job, and then in the evenings, I get to do my design work. So I have a weekly online game night with my group where we play on tabletop sims. So if I need to work on playtesting, I already have a designated time for that in that group. And then my partner Will is also a designer, so we have our own personal playtesting night. So once a week, we'll just sit down and play each other's games for a couple of hours. So I've just kind of built it into my schedule now where it's like a thing on my calendar and things really need to be on my calendar for me to do them. So that's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I can definitely second that. Like, I I don't think I realized it until you said it, but like, yeah. So in my calendar, I have my playtesting night, and like every week, I'm like, oh yeah, I could also playtest whenever I feel like it. But I usually just playtest on the spot where it's in my calendar, and my like Alexa system is like, hey, you should go playtest right now, and um, yeah, like if I don't put it in my calendar, it's just I'll do something else. Who knows what that something else is, but it won't be like playtest or design.
Yeah, I have a tendency to really overwork myself. Hence, I was working like 4 jobs at a time. So I have to really build that kind of stuff, like designing games, where I don't really think of it as a job. I think of it more as a hobby right now. So I have to actually build it into my schedule, or I will ignore it and I'll just keep working until like 9 at night, which is not healthy.
Oh, definitely. Like this whole pandemic has shown about how like I have no work life balance, and I have no idea how to achieve that. or like at least I didn't like a couple months ago, and I just worked 24/7 without like all the traveling and fun stuff that like I usually had like without getting together with people to play games. Like I was just staring at a computer
Hmm.
literally almost all that I was awake, which was so bad. So have you found any like good like work life balance things now that you can possibly work 24/7 if you felt like it?
Um, yeah, so one of the things that I do, I am a huge like calendar to-do list, plan by the hour kind of person. So on this wall behind my computer, I have three different calendar slash to-do lists. So I plan out all the stuff I'm supposed to do in a month, and then I have a separate board for all the stuff I'm supposed to do in a week, and then another board for all the stuff I'm supposed to do in a day. So if I break it down like that, it's really easy for me to say, like, I only need to do these tasks on Monday. So when I get those tasks done, I know I don't need to work on anything else. I've already done what I need to do. So it makes me feel a lot better about like at 5 o'clock, just I don't need to worry about it because I've already done the couple of things that I need to do on Monday, and the rest of it can just wait until the next day when I have it all planned out. But I'm like really into planning, so that's why that works for me.
Yeah, like well, I think that that's really good. Like I used to have that system, but like one of my issues is that I usually say like, oh yeah, I can get done 80 things today. That's easy. But then well, I also have like the ongoing to do list, so I might get done 80 things, but in that period of time, I also discover like 60 things that need to get done. So
Mm-hmm.
give me like I don't know, maybe ways to like know how much you'll actually get done in a day or being realistic about that.
Yeah, so this is a thing, it'll take a little bit of prep work, but what really helped me start planning my days, like my task load better in the day, is I did a time audit for all of my tasks. So I spent a week, and every task I did, I would write down the task name and then I would time myself and see how long it took to do. So that way, at the end of the week, I could see on average, I spend this amount of time answering emails, or on average, writing one Kickstarter update takes me this much time. So then I kind of have an idea of how much time each of those tasks is going to take me. So when I start doing a to do list, I can just add up the minutes or the hours it takes me and then say, like, if I've got 10 things on my list and they're all short, then that's great. I can pack a bunch. But if I do four things on my list and I 8 hours to do all four, I know to just stop my to do list right there because I've already reached my time limit for the day.
That is really good advice. I wish I could like stick to it like that and be like, oh yeah, I have 8 hours. I should just stop adding to the list. So Matt had a question. What do you wish you'd known before you started freelancing?
Um, this is a okay. So one thing that I do wish I had known earlier on is that you can't build a business on disingenuous relationships. So it seems like that should be kind of common sense. Like if you don't actually make good connections with people, they're not going to want to hire you. But if you're just starting out in freelancing and everybody's telling you like you need to network, you need to get to know people, it's really easy to get caught up in that and be like, okay, I just need to go meet people, say hello, and hand out my business card. And that's networking. And it's easy to just stop right there, but nobody's going to hire you if you do that. Like, if, let's say, if a publisher is trying to hire somebody for customer support, right? And they have two choices of people and they have the same service, the same price, the same skill level, but one of them is their friend, they're going to hire the friend because it's just nature. Like you want to work with people that you know and that you like. So if you already know somebody that can do it, you're going to want to hire that person. So if you are just going around and saying hi to people and handing out business cards, that kind of relationship that you're building is not going to support your business, right? So it's a lot, you have to spend a lot of time up front actually making genuine connections with people, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where I would play test with people and not expect anything in return, just try to help them out, or bring my friends coffee when they were working at a con. Like, it's showing people that you care about them outside of what they can give you. Um, and that'll really help you build up those relationships. And that's what helps support word of mouth too.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly support that. Like I think it was I read in Jamie Stegmeyer's blog like a while back. Like every day you're like if you want to like increase your network, like just do like a nice thing for someone every day, and
Mm-hmm.
like if you have no expectations on that, like you're just going out and doing something nice, like eventually like you'll just get like more well known for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, you're a helpful person that helps out others, so maybe like just being known will go somewhere. Um,
Yeah. And so when you're freelancing and you're offering a service, you don't have a business, you are the business, right? You are the person that is giving the services and performing those. So a lot of this, like, building genuine connections with people is just brand awareness. Like, it's just marketing too. I mean, it's great because you get to make friends along the way, and that's awesome, but it's also good that you're trying to actually get your, like, people are knowing your name. Like, they're learning who you are and they're learning what kind of person you are and what kind of work you do. And that's building brand awareness for your freelancing business, because that's the kind of work ethic that should show up in your freelancing business.
yeah, I I agree with all that, and like it's just more fun if you're working with your friends than
Mm-hmm.
if you're working with a stranger.
Yeah.
Charlie asked, what kinds of things do publishers use freelancers for?
Um, I think it kind of depends on the size of the publisher. So the bigger the publisher is, the more likely it is that they're not going to use freelancers because they're probably going to just have somebody on staff. So, like, I am probably never going to freelance customer support for Asmodee because they have somebody on salary that is doing customer support. So part of it is it kind of depends on how big the publisher is. But if it's a smaller publisher, I mean, honestly, they could freelance for anything. So um, they can outsource their customer support, they can outsource their logistics and shipping coordination. Sometimes they'll outsource their Kickstarter development or their Kickstarter like implementation. A lot of smaller publishers outsource their development, and I don't know, usually artists too are considered freelance. So it's kind of just like anything can be it. It just kind of depends on how big the publisher is and whether or not they already have somebody on staff.
I think the only one that you didn't mention that I hire freelancers for is editing,
Mm-hmm.
proofreading. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a pretty good list of like all the different things.
Mm-hmm. Copywriting and like marketing content too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just getting somebody. Or you also mentioned social media earlier. So social media is definitely a thing because there's a lot more to social media than one might
Mm-hmm.
think. Always changing. So yeah. Matt asked, have you formed an LLC or some other type of legal structure?
I have not yet, primarily for me, just because it can be cost prohibitive. So for me, on my taxes, I can just file as additional income, so I don't need an LLC right now, but I will get one eventually as my business grows because it's just legally better for protecting you and your assets. So I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know a whole lot about law and LLC to talk about that, but I know that it is better to have one than to not have one in terms of protecting your personal assets. But I personally don't have one yet because I don't have the extra cash to do it right now.
Mhm. Yeah. I have an LLC, but I also already had an LLC, so I just like put everything under like it's a Weird Draft Games thing, regardless of whether it is like
Mm-hmm.
the company or me. So that made it super easy for me because the LLC was already there.
Yeah.
But definitely it varies state to state because I think like making an LLC in California every year might cost $250 or something like that, whereas in Alabama it is a lot cheaper. Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on the state that you're in. I would expect it's the cheapest in the South just because that's how America works. Um, but yeah, definitely look into what states and things like that. Um, but yeah, I think you'd have to make like a certain amount of money for it to matter, and I don't remember what that amount of money is.
Yeah. I just know that you do still have to pay taxes, even if you don't have an LLC. So that's important.
Yes. Yeah, always pay taxes and also incorporate that in like your pricing structure.
Mm-hmm.
But that leads me to another question, which is how do you determine pricing for freelance work?
That is the question. That is probably the question that I've had the hardest time answering for myself. So it's difficult. So the more expensive you make your pricing, the more exclusive your client list is going to become. So if you're primarily working with smaller publishers, you have a really delicate line to tread, right? So you need to charge enough that you are covering your living expenses. So, like, we all need money to live. So, we need to charge enough that we're actually getting paid for our work, like what it's worth, and then also so that we can pay rent and eat food. But you also don't want to price yourself out of whatever market you're trying to work in. So, if I am working exclusively with small publishers, I'm not going to want to charge like $100 an hour because most small publishers aren't going to be able to afford that. They already have a small margin. So the more you charge, the closer you're also going to get to somebody that already has someone on staff. So if you are charging close to, this is not an exact number, I'm just using it as reference. If you're charging $100 an hour, that is the people that can afford that are probably already going to have somebody on staff. So they're not going to want to hire you because they already have somebody. So, long story short, is a difficult question. And it kind of just depends on what services you're offering and the the clientele you're trying to work with. Now, one thing you can do is just reach out to the people that you're trying to work with and say, this is the price that I'm thinking about charging. What would you expect to get for that price? And then if you just start asking people that would be on your potential client list and you get a super negative reaction, then, maybe you should adjust your pricing. Or if you get like a really, really encouraging reaction, maybe you're charging a little bit too much or a little bit too little. So I think one of the things that has personally helped me has been just reaching out to my client list or potential client list and saying, this is how much I would charge. Is that actually interesting to you? Or do I need to work on something?
Mhm. So you talk about like based on who your clientele is. Do you think it's okay to charge clients differently for the same type of work?
Um, I don't know. I think I think again it's kind of subjective to what you're doing. So personally, I tend to just charge a flat amount. So I usually charge the same price for customer support, for example. Um, but I mean, it just kind of depends on what your business model is.
I've personally I have a price for small publishers and then a price for really large publishers. Just because I want to work with more small publishers, and the amount of usually the smaller publishers I might already be friends with, so I guess it's maybe a friend discount or something. And if you don't know me, you get the not friends discount. Um, but that goes back to the whole like being friends with people in the industry and having genuine relationships, I think.
Mm-hmm. So the way that I've kind of been approaching my personal pricing is I have a general flat rate. So I charge per hour. So I have a general rate. And then when somebody wants to potentially work with me, I say, okay, what are the things that you're wanting me to handle? And then I'll adjust my rate from there. So if they have a lot of stuff that they need me to handle, I'll probably charge more than my standard rate. But if it's just answering emails for like 30 minutes a week, I'm going to lower my rate for that.
So you talk about an hourly rate. How do you try to work with publishers? Do you tell them about how long it will take you to do things, or how do you do that?
I'm sure that in the future I'll have people that ask me about that, but so far the people that I've worked with have just been like, I need you to do these tasks. When you're done, tell me how many hours it was. But I'm sure I would expect that the smaller the publisher is, like the tighter the budget, the more they're going to want to know like how many hours you're probably going to work. But so far, it's just for me been just do the work, and then when you're done, tell me how much I owe you.
So how important are contracts when you're working as a freelancer?
Mm, I don't have a contract. Maybe I should get a contract. um, I feel like contracts are probably more important when you're working with people that you don't already know. So, like right now, I am friends with the people that I'm working with, so I trust them a little bit more than I would some random person that I've never worked with before. So, right now, I don't really feel the need to have a contract, but I think it is important if you're going to be working with people that you're not familiar with, that you don't already have a working relationship with, like you haven't already built up trust with them. I think they probably are important for that.
Mm-hmm. So far in my freelancing, I just have used a contract, but I have no idea if the contract means anything. So I mean, it's there if anyone gets angry in the future, but I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea. As a publisher, I've been just I write contracts and I got used to that, so I just modified
Mm-hmm.
contracts. But is it legal? Who knows? Because I'm not a lawyer, um, and the people that are signing the contracts aren't lawyers. And I think if somebody got angry about a contract, then we'd both have to get lawyers, and a process would happen. But I don't think a lot of people in the board game industry can afford lawyers, because lawyers are the $100 per hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's my thoughts on contracts. Is
I think at least if you don't have a contract, you need to get whatever terms you're talking about in writing. So even if that's just agreeing on your pricing and agreeing on the services that you're responsible for in an email, like keep that email.
do you always try to get it in email and not over Messenger or
I,
something like?
I think as long as you have it in writing, it's fine. So it doesn't really matter what, as long as it's written down somewhere.
Charlie had a question. How do you track how many hours you work, and what things do you include in work? Do you pause your timer when you drink something?
Okay. So I have recently gotten way better at this. I have it right here. I used to literally just write everything down in a notepad. Um, so I have a really thick notepad of notes now where it's like 10:18 to 10:25. I answered emails. But that was super inefficient. And when somebody asked me, like, can you tell me how much time you spent on this task over this month? I had to do a lot of manual, like, going through my notes and adding and stuff, which was super inefficient. So I've recently started using Toggle, which is it's an online thing. So it's got you can get it in your web browser and you can get an app for it. And it's literally just a timer. So you press play when you start, you press stop when you stop, and it records everything. So the nice thing about it is that you can put in clients, and then under clients you can add tasks. So when I want to answer emails for Pandasaurus, I just have to type emails and then click on Pandasaurus and click play, and then everything's recorded for me by the second. um, so that has been super great for me because it's super searchable. It's always going to be collected there, and you can keep track of like your billable hours in it. So great. It has streamlined my process so much. Um, in terms of keeping track of how much time I spend on things, I typically charge in 15-minute increments. So the shortest amount of time I will charge for something is 15 minutes. If something takes me like 14 minutes, I charge for 15 minutes. Um, if I'm like going off to make lunch or something, I'm not going to charge for that time. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of depends on uh, what you're working on, though, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Kaggle, but that sounds really cool. Another one is Clockify. I think the important part is just finding something that works on both your computer and your phone, or at least
Mhm.
because like not every task is computer only, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And sometimes I have to do stuff when I'm on a car ride, like, and somebody else is driving. So it's great that I can just keep track of it on my phone and it'll save to the same account.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other tips or tricks or like software things that help you with freelancing?
Um, I extensively use Google Drive and all of the various things in it. That way I can always find stuff on my phone if I'm out and I don't have access to my computer. So I am really wild about keeping my Google Drive really, really organized by client and by task and all of that. So that's really helpful for keeping records of everything too.
I really need to start using Google Drive. I use Dropbox, but it's definitely not
Mm.
organized.
I've never gotten used to Dropbox. I have tried, and for some reason, I just cannot get my brain around it.
Where it's like the same as Google Drive, but I
Mhm.
think more people use Google Drive. Um, so yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or Sarah, do you have any like last like advice for people getting into freelance or?
Hmm. What would my advice be? I mean, so I think the two things that you really need to do if you want to start freelancing are start making actual connections with people and like get out there and get people to actually know your name, and then really focus from that point on brand building and brand awareness so that people, now that they know your name, they need to know what you do and they need to know that you know what you're talking about. So brand awareness is like building brand awareness, and essentially just marketing for yourself is going to look different depending on the services that you're providing and the area within the industry that you want to work in. But for me, like, I'm pretty active on Twitter, and I'm recently started getting more active in the Facebook designer groups. Um, so it's just getting out there and showing people like you're consistently participating in the industry and consistently doing stuff that shows that you're a professional and you know what you're talking about. Being on podcasts and live chats like this, great for brand awareness. So the more that you can get out there and show people that you know what you're talking about, and then also support other people that are doing stuff, the more people are going to want to hire you, and the more they're going to think of your name the next time they have a problem that they need to solve.
I mean, that is a ton of great advice. You brought up podcasts and live chats. About how much of your time is spent between just doing things that support like your brand awareness?
I try to spend at least 30 minutes a day. So I have a list of all of the things that I want to do for my brand awareness. So I have a list of all the Facebook groups that I want to be active in, and then I have my Twitter account. And so I'll spend 30 minutes a day, usually at lunch, and I'll just go to each of those different groups and go on Twitter. And if there's a question that I think that I can help answer, I'll post an answer to it. So sometimes there's not, sometimes I don't post anything, but I at least check every day, even just for a few minutes.
That sounds really cool. Like, well, especially if you have like the whole list thing, so you don't have to like think about it. You just go and do, and then the 30 minutes is over, and hopefully over time it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie had another question. Is there a danger in becoming too good a friend with someone? Like, are there ever circumstances where someone won't work with a friend because they're too good of a friend?
I mean, that could happen, yeah. It's just going to depend on, who the person is. Some people take that advice of never work with friends or family super, super to heart. And some people just don't really care that much. I think it's really just going to depend, but there are definitely people that might do that.
I think I definitely have worked with friends that I don't want to work with again, and also I'm not friends with them anymore. But I think part of it is just being professional
Mm-hmm.
about it, like just always being professional and honest. And I mean, if you are a good freelancer, it sh- it probably shouldn't matter because like I imagine Sarah, like if you ever like can't like do something by a deadline, you probably tell the person that you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like before it's been like a month later and they're just like, "Oh yeah, this happened. Oh no, I guess it didn't. What do we do now?" Like
Yeah, that professionalism is super important for that. And if you really want to keep your friendly relationship, you need to make sure that you're professional in it. It kind of helps, like draw the line in the sand of saying like these things that happen here are for our work relationship and these things that happen over on this side are for our friend relationship. So that definitely helps keep things separate.
well, that was some really good advice. If anyone wants to reach out to you after this, where can they find you?
I am primarily on Twitter, so at Sarah Perry 96 is where you can find me.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here, and thank you all for watching. If you want to talk about game design between these live chats, we have a Discord at weirddraftgames.com/Discord, and we'd love to have you there. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yeah.